Hey guys, George at SoundTraxx here. This week we're taking an installation of a TSU-21PNEM8 into this Scale Trains ES44 GEVO. Now, in order to accomplish this, now as we've talked about in the past, the Scale Trains have certain things in their motherboards that block out certain lighting effects from other brand decoders. So what I did was I took that out and installed a NICS decoder buddy along with the decoder. Now also I've got 3 cube speakers inside this model. And without getting too much into detail, one of the things we did is added a few lights. So we're going to talk about that today. So let's get started. So in this next video clip that I'm going to show you, I was actually doing some installation with some lights. Now in this particular installation, I used, again from NICS Trains. In this case, he sells a product called Loco Lights. And these are some really small 0201 LEDs where he 3D prints a light casting so that it looks prototypical even when it's not illuminated. Now, we're going to take a look at that clip and how I did the installation now.
Hey guys, it's George here. We're at the workbench. And today I wanted to show you what I'm doing is, as you can see here, this little tiny black dot right there. This is actually one of the Loco lights made by our friend Nick Santo at NICS Trains. And he takes these and you can see it's got the shape of a step light. And that's exactly what I'm doing with them. So on this model here, you can kind of see right there where I've put it into the model under the step. And I wanted to show you what I'm doing. So I'm taking this wire. This is a magnet wire, and this is an 0201 LED. So you can kind of see how it's sized against my hand there. But what I'm doing is I'm taking that wire and bending it at 90 degrees behind the light. And then I'm feeding the wire through the step. So when I get over here, you can see there's a little gap right there in the step, right in here. And so what I'm doing is I'm putting the wire through there, and then as you can see on the inside of the other side here, right in there, you can see where that wire is coming through. Now this is the part that gets tricky because you have to pay attention to what your clearances are. So once the glue dries and the light's in place, then you very carefully work your way through step by step. And as you can see here, we're bending the wire to go up against the back of the pilot here, carefully up the back of the inside of the steps, and then along the inside of the steps, and then going up into the body shell. And then that's where we can then run the wires along the inside top of the body shell. This isn't a difficult thing to do. It's just a little time consuming because each step, especially with this magnet wire, I mean, you can see kind of how tight that is in there. So when you're putting the glue in place to hold the wires in, you'll want to wait a few seconds, or actually probably a few minutes actually, to let the glue fully dry so that way when you're making your next bend, as you're going up on the inside of the pilot there, that you don't pull any of the previous wires out. And then once we wire those up inside the body shell, you can see once we get closer up to the inside, now we're back to the shrink tubing. Now, I realize we're gluing it in place up on the inside of the pilot here, but the shrink tubing just helps hold it in place, and that way you're not actually gluing the wire down. And then once we get all this put together, we will actually go in and wire them up in series. So the 4 step lights will be wired in series, and then they'll be wired to the decoder buddy that Nick also makes, and then to the decoder itself. So anyway, just wanted to share with you what we're working on here. And this is a conversion of a Scale Trains ES44, one of the sticker units. Thought they were cool, so I wanted to do it, but of course I had to add the extra lighting. So one thing you can see here, if you look closely here on the dash of the cab, there's a blue light, and that's what I had. You guys have seen me do this before This is a blue flag, blue light that you install in there. And so that way, what I did was I have this LED turn on when the function 15 is enabled, the handbrake. So what that does is it triggers not just the light to turn on so that we see that there's a blue flag going on, but also helps us remember that the handbrake is actually set. So that helps hold that in place. And then the other thing we did was this cab easily came off. And so what I did here on the inside of the cab is I actually drilled a hole. And as you can see, there's an LED right there mounted. That's a red LED, and that'll be tied into the emergency stop. So if the locomotive goes into emergency, or if we have to push the emergency stop, this will trigger that red light. Shouldn't be something you see on a regular basis, but it's there. So anyway, and then just to finish off the installation discussion, here's the chassis, and this circuit board here is going to be replaced with one of the Nix decoder buddies. I'm supposed to get it arriving here on Monday. So as soon as I get that in, then I'll be able to take all these wires, disconnect them, make sure which wires and which LEDs go where, and attach them up properly. Now, one thing I want to show you is over here on the front of the model. You can see where the ditch lights are wired in. There's these little spring-loaded pins, and that connects to the ditch lights on the underside of the frame. You can kind of see that there. So what you're going to want to do is when you're making sure you run your wires, you can see here on the inside of the pilot, I'm well away from where those pins go in. The last thing I did is on this chassis. If you look real closely right here on the side, you can kind of see I actually cut a little bit of a groove here. And what I did that for was to make sure that there was plenty of space for those wires to run up so that they weren't rubbing against the chassis or the metal or anything, or potentially cut the wires. So hopefully this helps you guys. Once we get this thing put together, I'll get you a little demonstration video.
Now, as you can see, using these really fine magnet wire, we can actually tack it up right behind the steps, and then once you put a coat of black paint on it, you can't tell that it's even there. Now, the good news is, because the wire is so small, it doesn't take much room to fit, so we were able to wire it up into the body shell. Now, on this particular locomotive, we have the headlight and the ditch lights, which are factory installed, and then we have number board lights. Now, this locomotive also comes with front and rear and side walkway lights, courtesy lights, so that the engineers and firemen can walk along without having to worry about tripping on anything, because they have something to see. Now, on this one, as I mentioned, I added the step lights, and then on the other side over here in front of the brake wheel, there's actually a brake wheel status indicator light, whether it's released or on. Now, from a BNSF engineer, there's actually two lights that turn on and off depending on the status, if the brakes are set and the brakes are not set. In this particular case, it's so small, I just did one. And the way I wired it is that the four LEDs, the one on the front, the one on the back, the one on the side, and then now the new one over here, are wired in series. Then what I did was I took the four step lights and wired those in series. Then what I did is I paralleled the sets and wired them to a single function. And what that does is it drops my current draw down below the 100 milliamp current rating that each decoder's output is rated for. So let's take a look and see what this locomotive looks like with the lights on. So here we have the headlight. Next, we're going to turn on our ditch lights. Next, we're going to go ahead and turn on the number board lights. Now we're going to turn on the stepway and the walkway light. So as you can see, there's the courtesy light up on the front, there's one here on the side, another one on the back, but then we also have our step lights. Now, these are these lights that I was talking about, the loco lights, and so they're very pointed because the LED is up inside the casting, so it's shining down and gives a more realistic experience as to what the real locomotives look like. All right, so now with three speakers in here, let's go ahead and take a listen, see what it looks like. Now, I will also tell you that I've already dropped the master volume down to 100 so that it's not overpowering, but we'll show you exactly how it can sound. So let's fire it up. Now we'll go ahead and change directions. Release the brakes. And with our dynamic digital exhaust, once we put a little bit of pressure on it to simulate a load, you can hear how the locomotive is throttling up to work against my hand. And then when I release, you can hear that the throttle drops back down. And again, I'm not touching the throttle on this command station. All that's done automatically using our dynamic digital exhaust. Now, for more information on the decoder itself, be sure to check out our website at SoundTraxx.com. Also, if you want to learn more about how I set up my locomotives, be sure to check out the video where I did an installation using a TSU-21PNEM8 into an Intermountain Tier 4 GEVO, and a very similar process was done during this installation here as well. So guys, thanks for watching. Feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions or comments, and be sure to like and subscribe to our channel. Make sure you click the notification bell to make sure you get notified when new videos drop every week.